1075 The Game Podcasting is sponsored by Modern Exterminating, a family-oriented company. Professional, honest, and dependable pest control solutions. We're your one-stop shop for all pests.
When you get to play a lot of guys, and they're all recruited here for a reason, because they're good baseball players. They get an opportunity to play, and they show that, and it shows the depth that we have. It shows on the mound and with our position players. So it was a really good night for us. I'm really happy about the way they played tonight.
All right, number one is this going to be the theme of the season? Is how they respond in back-to-back days or late night game followed by afternoon game? Like, have we set a precedent already after game one, essentially?
I think a little bit.
Did we?
I think it's going to be an area of concern until we're far enough away that it's not anymore. And again, the weather's coming in this weekend. You could be forced into a doubleheader at some point. How do you respond to that? How do you look in the third game of that? It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, you got a weekend series against Clemson next weekend in 3 different locations. So how do you handle the moving and the travel and all that kind of stuff in addition to playing a tough team? I think it's kind of a wait and see. Again, they've handled their business the last 2 nights, which is good to see. And hopefully the Northern Kentucky thing was just first weekend jitters. But that's going to be something that's at the back of our mind until we've seen enough to think, okay, well, that's just not a thing anymore.
I'm trying to figure out what the SEC championship still means.
I think coaches now are going to be judged on playoff appearances over conference championship.
Right.
So I would say there's more value in being in the playoff, even if, all right, you made the playoff 4 times, you only won 1 of those games. That's in today's world, I feel like better than saying, hey, you won the SEC title twice. Now, yes, again, that would have gotten you in the playoff anyway, but there's more value of being in the dance.
Let me change it. And I should have. I should have changed this on Twitter. And I might go back. It's Twitter. You can always just put out another tweet. Would you rather win the SEC championship or do what Mississippi did and make a run but lose and not get to the championship?
I think you'd rather be Ole Miss.
See that? Okay.
Yeah, because you were on the doorstep of making the national title. They didn't care that they weren't in Atlanta. Nobody was thinking about that.
Let me be clear about this. This is a great kind of a talking point here, because I'm not trying to disagree with y'all that 6-6 is acceptable and that you should be like, all right, that's a 2-game improvement over last year. All right, boy, are we heading in the right direction? Let me be clear on myself. You speak for yourself.
And there's a difference between acceptable to a fan base and acceptable to the institution that would have to pay a buyout if they fired you. Which, again, money's the big top conversation across all men's sports this year.
Well, listen, it's why I said back in January, and we're watching it. And it's literally, I honestly think we can have this conversation in about a month. And I know better what Jeremiah Donati is going to do after we see what happens with basketball. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, literally, I think we can know, because again, I'm not picking on Lamont Paris, but let's be honest, we're heading down the path of 2 of the worst basketball seasons in the history of South Carolina basketball. And if you want to keep him, all right.
And people listening have to understand that as a realistic possibility. It is not a foregone conclusion that he's gone, even if they end on, a 12-game losing streak or whatever it would be if they continue to lose out. There's a real possibility he could come back next year, and that buyout is a big part of that.
And I say that because I want you to think about this. If you've got 2 of the worst seasons, close to 2 of the worst seasons in basketball history, and you retain Lamont Paris, if we're talking about a 2-game improvement, which, again, I'm not trying to validate or tell you that that's acceptable or that you should be happy. I'm not going to say that. Shane Beamer said that we'll be looking at where they are in the playoff rankings.
Yes, he did set the bar high.
He did say that. All right. So,
and he would be answering he would have to answer those questions in November if they're not anywhere close to that.
And B, with that roster, yes, 8 wins is, to me, the bare minimum. Now, I can say I can see 7. 7 because of you got to win some close games, and I've got to see.
And you're taking on a bunch of teams that were in the playoff last year and projected to be in this year. So schedule's hard, as it always is.